Hi there, I'm the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston, in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit and the soul. And it is titled, Everything is Waiting for You, the Conversational Nature of Reality. And I'm going to begin with a poem by David Whyte, which kind of introduces the whole concept, I think. Or it's certainly his way of introducing this concept of the conversational nature of reality, which I'm kind of exploring through this devotion. So this is Everything is Waiting for You by David Whyte. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone. As if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely even you at times have felt the grand array, the swelling presence and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you or the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten and invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. I was recently interviewed by Ken Garrity on Radio Altrincham. He likes to talk to what he calls different personalities in the town. It seems that I am one of them. I am certainly someone who spends half his life with people in this town, engaged in conversation. I suspect that half of my ministry is about conversation in one form or another. Some might say it's the whole of it. That is, of course, if you understand conversation as being more than merely talking and listening. There is a conversation all the time going on between everything, actually. Everything is in conversation. Not necessarily through words. I shared very openly with Ken, though, perhaps far more than he expected me to. Maybe more than I expected to. So much so, though, that he himself shared something very deep and personal, which he said he had only ever told his wife about before, no one else. It was a spiritual experience that he'd once had. It was transformative, really, that really made him pause. It was a great conversation. And somewhere in that space, we met one another, and the listeners to the station certainly met us. And I suspect it was not in the way any of us is expected to meet, either me and Ken or the listeners. But that, of course, is the beautiful power of conversation. A conversation is far more than the sum of the parts, and it leads, well, to who knows where. The next morning, I went for a walk around Dunham Massey. I do it often. I had awoken in great spirits and felt deeply, deeply connected to everything. And it felt like the whole of life was talking to me. I was in conversation. I was in deep conversation with everything. I don't know if I've ever felt more deeply connected, probably, but it just felt new that day, like something new had awakened. I felt very much engaged in what David Whyte has called the conversational nature of reality. I returned home in good spirits, looking forward to the day ahead. It was about 9 o'clock, maybe a little before. And as I passed the chapel gardens, I noticed the telephone hanging, damaged from the wind telephone that we place in the gardens here. I took a closer look and realised that it had been vandalised. I was quite upset by this, actually. And I know that the upset feelings were not, the emotion wasn't just about the damaged phone. There were a few other things floating around in my psyche at that time, things that were heavy on my heart, things very close to my heart, things that meant a lot to me. During my interview with Ken, I've been talking about the wind telephone and the centrality, of course, of grief to the whole of my ministerial journey. Those who have listened to other talks of mine will be aware of that. Grief is born from love, and love is everything. There has been a lovely response to what has happened in the wider community. The wider community has really responded to what's happened to the wind telephone. And it will soon be repaired, of course it will. The connection has not been severed just because someone vandalised it. In fact, if anything, it's helped in engaging in conversation about love and loss. It's helped, oddly. It has helped folk engage in those courageous conversations, the ones that are often the most difficult to have. I have noticed in the last few days how much every conversation I have had appears to be deepening in meaning. There's a depth to everything. It's going deeper and deeper. And I don't just mean the spoken word here, by the way. I also mean the conversation with life itself. And of course, what I believe is at the core of life, what I would call God. The poet, philosopher, and former marine zoologist David Whyte sees our lives as focused on what he calls the great conversation. The great conversation we have with ourselves and the great mysteries of life which surround us. He calls this the conversational nature of reality. Like Whyte, I have come to believe that the essence of any real conversation is attention. It's about paying attention to the space where we meet life and where life meets us. I suspect that it is in this space that God really comes to life. Or at least, my experiences teach that to me. You can't deny experience. The other day I re-listened to a wonderful conversation between David Whyte and actually my favourite interviewer, Krista Tippett. I've listened to it before. It was taken from the On Being site and was first broadcast in April 2016. In it, David describes his early career as a marine zoologist and how scientific language, he said, grew inadequate to describe his experiences in the Galapagos Islands. Whyte said, "In Galapagos, I began to realize that because I was in deeply attentive states hour after hour watching animals and birds and landscapes, and that's all I did for almost 2 years, I began to realize that my identity actually depended on how much attention I was paying to things that were other than myself. And that as you deepen this attentionality and this intentionality, and this attention, you start to broaden and deepen your own sense of presence." Wow. Later in the interview, he describes the great conversation as finding this meeting point between self and other, stating that he realized that in fact reality lies at this frontier between what you think is you and what you think is not you, and that it is incumbent upon people then to stop abstracting themselves out of their bodies and out of their direct experience and hold the conversation at this frontier level. He says that we must enter into what he calls the conversational nature of reality. The anthem of Whyte's conversational nature of reality is his poem, "Everything is Waiting for You," which I shared a little earlier. Here he encourages us to feel the grand away, the swelling presence and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. He insists that the frontier of this profound reality of the world can be and is found in the intimacy of your surroundings, in the way the soap dish enables you or the window latch grants you freedom. The key is in this line that alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. That it's about being alive to everything and allowing everything to be alive to you. That it's more than just mindfulness, which is the trendy terminology, isn't it? Far more than that. It's about being in conversation with everything and everything being in conversation with you. In fact, everything in you and you in everything, perhaps. It's more than just mindfulness, much deeper than that. He also makes a profound statement that humans are the only thing in creation that doesn't want to be itself, that tries not to be itself, and that the key is to become ourselves, and that this is done through conversation with everything. Everything is waiting for us to truly become all that we were born to be. The problem for so many of us is that we reject ourselves, that we believe that there is something fundamentally wrong with us. There is nothing else in life that feels and acts like this, only humans, it seems. It is only we who refuse to engage in the conversation. And yet, everything is waiting for us. Everything is waiting for you. Now, for Whyte, this began during his transformative experience in the Galapagos. And of course, nature is one gateway into the conversation with reality, which of course we are all a part of. And yet, sadly, at times we humans try to deny this. I think the problem we humans have is that we've often struggled with is that we have felt distant, apart, separate from nature, from life, separate from ourselves, separate from everything, separate from one another. This sense of alienation is unique, it seems to us. Why? Well, I don't know the answer. And yet, everything is waiting for us. Everything is waiting for you. Whyte points out that the conversation takes place in and through everything, even the seemingly mundane. In this poem, he invokes the everyday familiarity of stairs, doors, phones, kettles, and cooking pots. And he ends by harking back to nature, ending with these truly amazing, incredible words. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything, everything, everything is waiting for you. He ends the poem by inviting us back to engage in the conversation, to not feel alone and alienated, telling us that our true calling is simply waiting for us. It is waiting for us to simply engage. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. Wow. Everything is waiting for us. Everything's waiting for you. Everything. Just engage in the conversation. Now, I enjoyed a wonderful, wonderful experience of this earlier this week. Maybe this is why this conversation began. And it began in deep, deep conversation, in walking and talking with a friend. It was also powerfully experienced during the singing meditation on Tuesday night in the gardens of the chapel, when through getting lost, enjoy singing with others, in blending. Oh, I had this wonderful experience blending with another voice and singing out in nature. I felt fully engaged in the conversational nature of everything. It was wonderful. Found my own voice in another voice, and where the two voices met. It was incredible, actually. The next morning, I woke very early and met a friend and walked down to Dunham Massey again. I'm there all the time at the moment. It was wonderful to move through everything, the beautiful countryside, for just a couple of hours with virtually no one else about. We were powerfully alert, alive to everything, and it seemed like everything was alive in us and to us. We were in deep conversation with one another, but more than that, we were in deep conversation with everything that we moved through. There was not a prescribed plan, we just kept moving down different paths, some barely trodden paths, in many directions. We talked about life, our own and the lives of others, some painful and some beautiful, some real depth we reached. I mean, we talked philosophy, psychology, theology, and a whole lot more of stuff, and laughter too. It felt like we were more comfortably ourselves, and somewhere in that space between us, in us, something more came alive. At the same time, we were fully engaged with the sights, the sounds, the smell, the noise, the feel of everything. The ground at our feet had a particularly profound effect, it seems. The sounds of our feet touching the ground, walking through life. And even had time to bump into one or two folk we knew and continue another conversation. Apparently, one of them had been talking about my friend to his wife just before we spoke. Wow, amazed. What conversation, every kind of conversation, alive and engaged all at once. Wednesday morning was one of those conversations that you never want to stop. Well, it doesn't have to stop. It will continue. We just had work commitments that morning that we had to both get to. I had to begin writing this. It was, though, a wonderful example of the conversational nature of reality. We met one another, ourselves, life, and that which is at the core of all life as we walked and as we talked and as we got lost in Dunham Massey. Everything is waiting for you. Everything is waiting for all of us. The conversation is reality. The beauty and profound nature of reality is everywhere, in everything, even the kettle boiling as you make that cup of tea for a guest. All we have to do is to bring our attentiveness to the frontier between self and the rest of creation, and then enter into conversation with it. We must come out of abstraction and back into the world again, as Whyte did when he left the Galapagos Islands and began his real work. And that's what it's really about. The spiritual life is about living more spiritually alive. It's about increasing our sensitivity to life itself. It's about being increasingly affected and then becoming more effective in life. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. Oh, wow, love it. I have come to understand that at its core, the spiritual life is about relationships. Relationships with life, with each other, with ourselves, and with God, whatever we understand God to be. And how do relationships develop? Well, through conversation, through sharing ourselves with each other, not by losing ourselves, but by becoming ourselves through our conversations with the other, both lower and uppercase, with the other in everything, somewhere as we meet and it meets us. That's the conversation. That's where life becomes so animated. We relate through conversation and thus we grow spiritually through relationship. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. If life has taught me anything, it's that it's all about relationships. Everything that really matters is about relationships. And the key to all relationships is conversation of some kind. It's about being alive and alert in spiritually intimate ways. But we have to believe we belong here, of course. We have to not reject our humanity. Everything is waiting for us. Everything is waiting for you. And more than that, everything needs us to engage in the conversation of life. Life needs all of us. Everything is waiting for all of us. Life is about relationships. The spiritual life is all about relationships. Relationships with life, with each other, with ourselves, and with God, whatever we understand God to be. And how do relationships develop? Well, through conversation, through sharing ourselves with each other, not by losing ourselves, but by becoming ourselves through our relationships with the other, both upper and lower case. We relate through conversation, and thus we grow spiritually through relationship. Everything, everything, everything is waiting for us. Everything is waiting for you. So I invite you to join with me, to come with me on a journey under the skin, to come with me and join with me in the conversational nature of reality. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. Engage in the beautiful conversation and let the conversation engage with you. Everything, everything, everything is waiting for you. Amen. I'm going to end this devotion with some final words of blessing. My word, life needs more blessing, and we can all bless. We bless when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to life and engage in the beautiful conversation and let life engage with us. But here are some final words of blessing from me to you as you return to life, where everything is waiting for you. May the love which overcomes all differences, which puts to flight all fears, which heals all wounds, which reconciles all who are separated. May that love be in us and among us, now and always. Everything is waiting for you. So come and join with me in the beautiful conversational nature of reality. Come and join with me, sing a song with me, or just converse in whatever way works for you. Come and join with me. And may the love of God go with us all, and may it do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, and in all that we do. Go in love, go in peace. Amen.